Aikwe, Neknamalita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian, and today I will be talking about my review for Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is the first book of the Empyrean, which is a 4-book series. The second book has just been announced, as well as cover released, and the second book will be coming out in November of this year, which feels like a really quick turnaround in all honesty, because I believe Fourth Wing came out just a month or two ago. I don't have a physical copy of this. I hope to at some point, if that tells you anything. However, aside from reading this synopsis from Goodreads, I really just don't want to support Amazon more than I have to, which they do have some copies. I also don't think this book was good enough to spend over $200 for to be able to get the sprayed edges. I have some feelings about this book, but before we get into that, let me read you the synopsis. 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now the commanding general, also known as her tough-as-Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre, dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away. Because dragons don't bond to fragile humans, they incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than candidates, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Zayden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge of her wits she can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet, with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly, the kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect that leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers, everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda, because once you enter there are only two ways out: graduate or die. So I didn't read the synopsis before I read this. I just knew it was a fantasy that had to do with dragons and possibly a war college. Actually, I knew about the war college thing because that was one of the reasons why I was avoiding it a little bit, was because I heard it was giving the Poppy War vibes, and honestly, I only rated the Poppy War a 3 and was not interested enough to continue on with the series. But once more people started reading Fourth Wing and were loving it, I was feeling a little bit of FOMO, wanted to know what it was about. So I luckily was able to get it fairly quickly through my library through Libby. I would suggest reading this physically, because I don't think Rebecca Solar is a very good narrator when it comes to male voices of any kind, dragon or human. We do get Teddy Hamilton for the last chapter, but I think he could have been utilized a whole lot more for the male voices throughout the audiobook, and it would have been a bit better. I would say though that Rebecca Solar, it's not necessarily all their fault, but definitely made Violet seem a lot younger than I think she was supposed to be. And the synopsis we just got, it says she's 20, but that's not how it comes across in the narration. I'd also say that that's Rebecca Yarros' fault as well in how she wrote Violet, because it just felt weird. She felt underage, so it's the rest of Violet was fine. I like the fact that we have some disability rep. She has chronic pain. She's her body is a bit more fragile than everybody else's. A fact that she has had to endure and be able to hide when she enters the Rider Quadrant in order to keep herself safe, as well as not give any advantage to anybody else who's wanting to kill her. But she also has some, I thought she was able to navigate it really well in terms of how to be able to defeat some of her enemies without having to physically fight them. But for the most part, she still felt underage to me. Everybody else was kind of talking about sex this or not, I had slept with so, but anytime she piped in about, oh, I miss sex, or was thinking about what I would do to him, and start describing what she would do if she ever got his clothes off him, it felt a little odd. It made me really question, going, have you had sex before? For some reason it kind of threw me. I really liked the discussion that was had and her growth when it came to her disability, because there is a character in here that ends up trying to get her out. I mean, there's a couple characters that are like, what are you doing in the Writer's Quadrant? You shouldn't be here. You should be in Scribe's Quadrant. Not just because of her disability, but because that's essentially what she was prepped for. She wasn't prepped for the Dragon Rider Quadrant. It became more than just that she wasn't trained there. It was leaning heavily on the fact that she has chronic pain and that her body breaks easier more than others. And so it became a bit of contention with her in this character multiple times, where she had to prove herself time and time again, and yet they still saw her as weak. They still saw her as not capable of being able to do this. So I loved her confidence in being able to stand up for herself with this character, as well as is then defined as their friendship. I wish we had more connection with side characters. Ree was one that I wanted to learn more about. We kind of get some instances, but ultimately I believe Ree is I think it's Rhiannon, but they just call her Ree, but I'm not entirely sure if it's Rhiannon, so I'm just going to call her Ree. I believe is a bisexual character who has some sexual exploits. So that makes me question of just like, because she's the only bisexual character and it happens to be having a lot of sexual exploits, is that feeding into the stereotype that bisexuals are just... So I don't know, there was like this weird thing with that, but we also didn't get a whole lot with Ree. She essentially was there just to help the plot move forward a bit. Dane, we don't get very much of him. We essentially don't get all the people that Violet is supposed to be connected with, that we're supposed to care about. We don't get a whole lot of, because anytime enters the room, that's all we're given. And even him we're not given a whole lot about, because it's like he is just like the secret brooding type that Violet can change. We get that trope, and all we really know about him is that he's hot, he has scars, he's sculpted like a god, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and he of course wants to kill Violet. So we don't get a whole lot from him, but of course, like, Violet apparently is just sexually attracted to him like nobody's business, and that was part of it, as well as that, like, I'm saying that it was romance, but it was sexual attraction, because we hardly, like, we get more emotion from Xaden than we do from Violet. The romance was definitely what took the plot off the rails and like gave me whiplash, in all honesty, because I love the world building for this book. I love the magic explanations, as well as learning about the dragons and what the cadets have to do in order to prepare for bonding with the dragon. The brutality of that I enjoyed, I loved. We get it throughout, like sprinkled within the first half, but then by the second half of the book we really get that sexual tension that derails everything, and that's all that Rebecca Yarros talks about. We no longer care about how riders bond with the dragons, or what it means to have a dragon in your head the whole time and feel their feelings and feel their thoughts. Not to mention like the magical power that they then imbue with you. Nope, don't really get that. I feel like the romance took so much away from what could have been. So like in other Dragon Rider books, which I will admit I haven't read a whole lot of, but I have read the Inherent Cycle. I'm currently reading the Temeraire series. There's a trust that is, to me, lacking in here, because like you are bonding with a dragon. What does it mean to bond with a dragon? Particularly when it comes to Violet. Why? I want to know why. So many whys that were not explained. Also, how? Like, and the trust between the dragons and her. That's but like not even just Violet. I want to learn about all the dragons. Ree's dragon, Dane's dragon, Xaden's dragon. We kind of get a bit more of Xaden's dragon, but like wanted more of it. And instead we mostly get, I feel like the only reason why this was a new adult was so that they could put sex scenes, which I really think weren't needed, and if anything they were cringy to me. I don't think I would have sex if that was the result every time, and how do folks not know it's them every time? And I swear, the last half of this book, I was like determined to like just finish it and move on and be like, that was cool, I'm not gonna finish this series. Except then Rebecca Yarros gets the train back on the tracks after that romance derailed it, and like the last couple, the last little bit, I'm just like completely shook, and now I need the second book. I need to read it, because we get right back into like that what gripped me in the first place. I have whiplash now. But I was trying to think of just like, okay, why is it that people are enjoying this? And ultimately it came to me this morning, because I wasn't going to do this review. I wasn't going to do this review at all. I didn't think it was really needed or wanted. But then I saw a TikTok this morning about someone calling out bands that are now considered dad rock. My Chemical Romance was one of them, but the other one, 3 Days Grace. And I just kind of on a whim decided to look them up on Spotify and just kind of listen to them. And as I'm listening to them, I'm like, holy shit, this is Zayden. This broody early 2000s like gothic emo rock is Zayden. And maybe that's why a whole lot of people enjoy this, of just like they're fulfilling their early 2000s dreams of having sex with that brooding boy in the corner to the music that they hoped to be able to have sex to back when they were too young. That's what this book feels like. Animal I Have Become, and I swear Zayden is that song incarnate. Because as I was listening to it, I'm just like, wow, I really like it. I thought this was a sexy song. I still think this is a sexy song. I think that's ultimately Rebecca Yarros is using nostalgia of what we felt when we read Hunger Games and Twilight. I didn't read Twilight, but I would imagine. Imbued it with dragons. And that was what captured a lot of us. But then she threw that romance in there. And ultimately the romance would have been fine if she toned it down a little bit. But then she brought up drama that Violet brought up herself and created herself. And I was like, wait. I didn't need that. That's too middle school. That is too young adult for me. Felt like she brought these like sex scenes in that we fantasized about in the early 2000s while listening to 3 Days Grace, My Chemical Romance, and System of a Down. I'm really upset it's called dad rock. So, but ultimately the plot is really interesting if you can get through the romance and the drama that all is because of Violet. So yeah, I will be reading Iron Wing because I'm curious where this series is going to go ultimately, and hopes that it'll get better. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Fourth Wing. Let me know your thoughts about it if you've read it. Let me know if you made it this far. Thank you so much. Let's you know what, let's go ahead and put a black heart. That's what I'm feeling right now, a black or red heart. Otherwise, be sure to like this video, subscribe if you want to see more of me, and I will see you in another video very soon. Chew.